How much of a glimpse are we getting of the box of the future in this game against Portugal in Bloemfontein this weekend? Rassie Erasmus has named his side and it is almost all change. I did wonder when I was on the plane whether we'd get a team, and there it was, waiting for me when I get back. I am freshly back from South Africa. In fact, I'll come back to the team in a second. This is what I left. That was the view I had just as I left my hotel room in Umhlanga, just north of Durban. And that's the view that I arrived back to. So winter in South Africa, summer in Manchester, rain, 14 degrees. Can I come back? Actually, I am coming back anyway, as I mentioned on the video yesterday. And thank you for your comments on that one. I am coming back to watch the New Zealand tests in Johannesburg and Cape Town. Looking forward to exploring some other parts of South Africa I didn't get to on this one, but for all the others, they're in the feed. And yeah, let's talk about the box then. BOK to the future, I've called this video. Now, that might be slightly misleading because actually there's a massive amount of experience in this 23-man squad playing against Portugal. I said it's almost all change. Kurt Lee Arendse keeps his position in the starting 15 from the team that played Ireland. You've got RG Snyman stepping up from the bench to start in this one. And Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu continues on the bench. I mean, he played 79 minutes of last week's game and he's still there. There are still 8, by my count, Rugby World Cup winners in that 23-man squad. And most of them are 2-time Rugby World Cup winners as well. So there's a load of experience and some real legendary campaigners like Makazole Mapimpi, Cobus Reinach still there. Guys that possibly won't be there at the next World Cup, but they're good for right now. But what I quite like is there is enough new blood to get excited about, and I actually really like that tactic of not just bringing a load of new inexperienced guys in. I think you give the new faces the best opportunity to do well when they're surrounded by people that are comfortable at that level and experienced at that level, and I think that's going to bring the best out of these new faces. 5 new players were brought into the squad. Some of them are involved in the 23 here. I think that the question I want to ask, and I'd love to get your comments down below, which players could earn themselves a matchday squad spot for the Rugby Championship matches that are coming up? Particularly, I'm thinking of those 2 that I'm coming back for to South Africa, those 2 against New Zealand, the old rival. Who could earn themselves a shirt in the 23 most realistically? I think that's one of the most interesting questions to look at. I would suggest that there's 1 spot in the back row up for grabs, possibly 2 actually. No one's shifting Peter Steph Toy, obviously, the guy's an animal. Sia Khaleesi will probably still be number 6, but I would say 6 and 8, realistically, those jerseys could be earned. We saw how well it worked for Ireland when Andy Farrell was ruthless in his selection, dropped his captain to the bench and picked a different player in the number 6 jersey, and it worked really well for Ireland. Could we see Rassie Erasmus do the same thing for South Africa? I think it could happen. So I think there's potentially 2 jerseys up for grabs in the back row, and that's probably the most likely spot to see a bit of evolution. Evan Ruiz, obviously the name that you think of there in the 8 jersey. Now, Quacker Smith did nothing really wrong, but he also isn't Dwayne Vermeulen, and there is something about having a giant man who can just make dents in defensive lines. And Quacker Smith does some incredible things, but I think there's a chance he could get nudged onto the bench in future matches, and it could be a guy like Evan Ruiz who could start. Cameron Hanekom injured is a shame because he's obviously someone else that you sort of feel like could be the long-term successor to Dwayne Vermeulen. Elric Lowe is on the bench, however. Actually, before I talk about other positions that are potentially up for grabs in the future, I think it's important probably just to point out the selection should be led by the way that you want to play, or some people pick the way they want. Some people pick the players and then pick a system that fits them. Other people have a system and a style of play and then pick the players that are the best match to that. And I think that whole philosophy is what probably the Boks have got to wrestle with a little bit at the minute. You've got some pretty smart guys at the top. Here, Rassie Erasmus knows a thing or two, and Tony Brown seems all right. And if they go down this more expansive style of rugby like we saw in that first test against Ireland, and much less kicking, much more hands, then I think there are some players in this 23-man squad which could really benefit from that, and it could showcase what they're incredible about. I mean, Marnie Lebok, the guy pictured there, maybe most of all. And Well, actually, before I get to that, look at the pack. I think that is a pack that's selected to do that kind of job. Yeah, big boys. I mean, they're South African, so you just get big boys. But that front row, for example, some fresh faces to international rugby in it. They're all big guys, but very mobile. Like Thomas du Toit's jackling is absolutely outstanding. Vessels is a big unit who is very mobile. Same with Grobbelaar as well. And RG Snyman, you know, as much as being an absolute giant unit, he's got great offloading skills. And if they're trying to speed up the way they play, I think that's a pack that can do that. Buthelezi in the back row, very different type of player to Sia Khaleesi. He's all action, ball carrying, offloads, all over the shop. Actually, I stayed in Sosluwe, north of KZN, and they're very proud of the fact that Pepsi Buthelezi is one of their boys. I had the primary school he went to pointed out to me while I was up there. And then the back line, there's wheels all over the shop, and some of the guys on the bench really exciting as well, with Quan Horn, Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu as well. So that's an interesting one. Actually, back to the pack. Salman Murat's captain. His first game starting and captain for the Boks. He was on the bench versus Ireland. I did question his selection then. Wondered if 2 locks was maybe overkill. Didn't need it, particularly when you had Ben Jason Dixon, who is also starting on the blindside flank. In this one, he can cover flank and also second row out of push. I will say, I went to the hotel in Pretoria, and the Boks were staying there, and I had a meal there. And Salman Murat walked through the lobby. That guy is absolutely enormous. I will say that. He is huge. Just as a specimen, he could absolutely be a South African number 4. And the way everyone talks about him, he's captained every team that he's ever played for. And people talk about him as a guy in the most glowing terms. So he's obviously got everything going for him. I just want to see him play a little bit nastier. Do you know what I mean? I want him to be strike fear into the opposition in the way that Ibn Etzebeth does. So to other positions which could be up for grabs come Rugby Championship time, I think scrum half is definitely one. Faf de Klerk did to say he didn't have his best game was an understatement. It was probably the poorest game I've seen him play. Maybe certainly one that I can remember. So he's definitely got a question mark above his head. Grant Williams looked much better when he came on, so there could be a place on the bench or starting for Kobus Reinach, maybe. Morne van den Berg as well. It's interesting that van den Berg is on the bench when he appeared to be the third choice scrum half against Ireland, because he was the guy that was with the team on the match day warming up. And you see in my video from Loftus, he's doing the little fitness session after the warm-up with Evan Ruiz, because they were both the travelling reserves. So it's interesting to see how that one goes. And fly half as well. No question that is up for grabs. Andre Pollard, poor in the first Irish in the first Irish test, not up to his usual standards, but they won the game. Better in the second one, but they lost the game. His goal kicking was really good. But if they're playing this Tony Brown style, Marnie Le Bock, that plays right into his hands, and Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu. That is a debate that is going to be had many, many times. It already started on my video from Kings Park at the weekend, which is in the channel. The fans amongst themselves started having that debate. Marnie Le Bock or Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu, and in which position. When Willems is back at fullback, it's going to be really interesting both for the Stormers and for South Africa to see how that goes. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it goes this weekend. Goal kicking is not going to be a major issue this weekend because you would expect South Africa to win comfortably. But that is maybe one area that Sasha has over Marnie. But they're both absolute ballers with the ball. And under a bit of pressure, let's see what Marnie Le Bock does. I expect him to respond really positively to it. But, I mean, great options. So, yeah, scrum half, fly half. It's probably it, isn't it? You've got experienced centres there, but backups for their guys, Esther Hazen and Am, who'll be linking up with the Sharks next year. And that's going to be good for the two of them, having that club cohesion week in, week out. That could benefit them both for the Boks longer term. But at the moment, Diolende and Creel have got those spots nailed down. Just on the players on the bench, Thomas du Toit, in the starting lineup, Thomas du Toit, just to highlight the ridiculous depth at prop. It's insane. Thomas du Toit was comfortably the best prop in the English Premiership this year. Absolutely marmalised his opposition. He was brilliant. and he is third choice tight head prop as it currently stands for South Africa. It's not fair. And also, there's a load of Lions are going to get their debuts, which is great for the Lions, who seem to be a production factory for players that then go off and get their Springbok caps when they play for other teams. But they've got Quan Horn, they've got Morne van den Berg, and Ruan Venter. That's a guy I'm quite excited about. He is all three of them are balls of muscle, fast twitch muscle, and super explosive. But Ruan Venter, back row player at 21 years of age, he's got a big future. So excited to see how he goes. And I hope for the Lions' sake that the other provinces don't just swoop in now and take them, as has happened to Jordan Hendricks. Edwin van der Merwe as well, actually. Now I'm talking about Lions. He must be injured. If Kurtley Arendts is playing in this one, I'd imagine that means van der Merwe is injured, right? I'm assuming so. I'm making that assumption. But tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know, actually. Right, your thoughts in the comments then. I'm interested to know the positions and the players that you think could earn themselves a starting or a matchday 23 spot for the Boks in the Rugby Championship coming up. And how are you expecting them to play? How do you want them to play? And who are the guys that are going to deliver that game plan? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for your support on the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next one.